What's up, y'all?
Hey, everybody.
Welcome to the Tug of More.
Oh, man, it's that time again.
That's right.
I love Tug of More time. Do you listen?
Yeah.
Like, do you go back and listen to what we say?
Yeah, I try to watch it on YouTube, but then I sometimes switch to the podcast. But yeah, I listen. I at least listen if I don't watch.
Man, we have been dropping some bombs. The amount of engagement that we got over our church hurt.
Oh, my word.
Good, bad, sad, happy, healing.
All of it.
So
Yeah.
many people have reached out.
Oh, good.
And super excited
That's
about
right.
everything.
No, it's been fun. And so welcome to our permanent temporary space. And we're having fun together. I've been excited about the top of the year. I feel like we've got some new, fresh stuff that we're bringing, new content,
For sure.
new things. And then as our team here at More Church, we've been able to like launch into some new things. And so I'm excited about the next
100%,
season.
100%. So if you're new to the Tug of More, if you haven't watched or listened
That's
before,
right.
we're just two friends
That's true.
that are trying to step into everything that God has. And there's a tension there. There's a tension between where you are and where you want to be. And that's what we call the tug
That's right.
of more.
Yep. And so we just have a conversation, the two of us, about different things, different areas where we've learned, different areas where we've screwed it up, different
Yeah.
areas where...
Which is really the majority of our content.
Yeah, most of it is about what we screwed
Our
up.
epic failures.
Somebody in one of the church conversations wrote me and said, "Thank you for your vulnerability. That must be really hard."
Yeah.
And they said, but it actually is helpful. Like, it's hard to go back to those places, but it's helpful to move forward. And that's the goal of Tug of More, is
Yeah.
that we can all just step into the more that God has for us.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that we talk about is what we have walked through. Yeah, in the
Yeah.
past. I've been recently super transparent in some messages on Sunday.
That's true.
And so I have people, mostly like older people that
Yeah.
aren't used to that transparency, that are coming up to me and saying like, "Are you okay?" You know, like, are you
Because I would
having
have to be totally in a mess in order to actually
Are you
share
having
that.
a mental breakdown?
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, well, I'm kind of admitting that I did.
Right.
I'm kind of talking about what I had walked
at one
through.
point, but I'm not now. But that's the thing about what we walk through, is that we have the opportunity to share it with other people to help them, because
Yeah.
we're all just humans walking through different seasons of life. And so, man, somebody else who's having probably a mental breakdown this morning.
Who?
Is that kicker from the Cowboys, because
Oh.
what the junk, y'all.
Now, I'm not a sports guy.
No,
I
not
don't
really.
I don't follow sports.
But
I will go with a large group of friends and cheer for whatever team they point me at.
That's whatever team they point you in the direction of, said, "This is our team." You said,
Whoever
okay.
Aaron's cheering for.
That's right.
Whitney's husband, I'm cheering for.
That's right.
And so, yeah, dude, I've been, if you're not a sports guy, every once in a while there's something in sports world that pulls you in.
Right.
And here in Texas, the Cowboy Kicker missing 4 kicks
This poor guy.
became a topic of conversation.
Well, because one, it's a record. Like, no one has ever sucked that bad in the history of professional sports that consistently in one game. No one's ever missed 4 in a row.
That's the worst.
It's the worst. And then this, we just watched, sadly, the Cowboys, again, choked in the playoffs, but we watched that game together. You came, we all hung out,
Yeah.
a bunch of us on our team, and watched it. And what was sad for him, I felt sad for him, is that Jerry Jones, not the head coach, not even like the
Moneybags.
but the owner,
Scrooge
of
McDuck.
the guy in charge, the guy who decides if he gets a paycheck or not, came down on the field. And I'm like, if I could have just been a fly to hear what he said.
That's real helpful.
I'm sure it was extremely helpful.
Just the other day, I think we said to Wyatt, we said, "Hey, Wyatt, can we talk to you?" And his eyes were like,
Yeah.
"What?" And imagine what the kicker feels when Jerry
and
Jones.
even if all he said to him was, "Hey, man, you got this. I know you screwed it up last game, but you can do it." That is not what he heard. What he heard was, "You suck real bad, and you
Yeah.
better not screw it up again." And he did a little bit.
I can imagine the worst part is all the eyes upon you, and then all of the people that are talking trash.
Yeah.
But you know what?
What?
The people talking trash can't kick no field goal.
That's true. They probably couldn't do it either.
We're in your living room last night,
Yeah.
and everybody is talking noise.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ain't one of these
Our
people.
governor's even talking noise.
Oh yeah, our governor, Greg Abbott. He shots fired. Can we put that? Dude's in a wheelchair.
Right. And he
And
says,
so
I
he's-
can kick as well. It's ridiculous.
So, like, I'm saying, it's got to be tough when
Yeah.
everybody's saying what a loser you are.
Yeah.
But, he's got to remember, y'all ain't doing nothing.
That's true.
You're eating Doritos sitting on your couch with a beer belly.
Yeah.
Talking smack.
You know, it kind of made me think about our like church hurt conversations that we had, and like some of the places where we've talked about like you're fired, all these things, because as leaders of an organization, they are in a hard spot.
Yeah.
They're paying this bro $1 million.
Yeah.
And he literally, well, 965,000 or whatever. And he literally has one job to
one
kick.
job, and he's on the field for like 19 seconds or something.
That's it. Yeah. And like it's set up well. He's not like normally gonna get tackled. Like he's normally just like, all you gotta do is kick the ball.
Yeah.
And it's just funny because I can see both sides of what you're saying. This poor kid, he's like, shut up, you can't do what I do, leave me alone. But on the other side of it, yeah, but we only need you to do this one thing, and if you can't do it.
But how much of it is the ability to kick versus the ability to kick under pressure?
100%. It was a
because
mind game.
the guy probably the next day, Monday after he missed them all, he goes to practice, bang, 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 bang,
right.
bang.
I imagine he has like a bruise on his foot for kicking like 300 after that day. Like I would just stand there all day and be like, I can't do it. What happened? Oh, poor guy.
Yeah, but under pressure, it's different.
Yeah. No, it's true.
When I was young, learning to, I guess, preach. I'm still learning to preach, but I would preach in my bedroom or in my office or whatever when nobody would be there. And dude, I would preach so good.
Right.
Like when nobody was around, it was just me. I felt like my jokes hit and my points were good and my scriptures.
Yeah. Exactly right. Yeah.
But then you walk out on stage and all the eyes are looking at you and you're like, duh.
Yeah. The lady coughs and then the baby cries, wah, wah, and you're like, oh crap.
Yeah. And so there's something very real about being under pressure.
Absolutely. No, it's funny. It was a funny, like, oh my word, what is even happening? But we were all coming together. Yeah, to sadly hate on this kicker. I felt bad for
Poor
him,
guy.
but that's okay.
Hey, bro, you're probably not watching, but if you are, we love you. At the Tug of
that's
More.
right. We believe in you.
Let's
You
get
can
that
do
guy
it.
and interview him.
I wish we could.
Let's interview him
How
and
many
talk
people
about
are trying to
navigating
interview that
failure.
guy right now?
Everybody.
He's literally he's like going to move under a bridge for the next 6 months.
He's going to come here and talk to us.
Don't talk to me. Yeah.
Mister, I don't know anything about sports.
Yeah. He's like,
Okay. We have had a whirlwind of a weekend.
that's true.
So this last week, we had our staff harbor weekend.
That's true.
And then it's Monday right now. And then we had 2 services yesterday.
Yeah. My brain feels a little like the holy hangover that they talk about.
Holy hangover, okay.
My daughter went to school today, and she is also a part of our staff team. And so she was with us all weekend, and then there on Sunday. And then because she's still a senior in high school, she also had like choir stuff this weekend. And she made a post that said, they say ministry is a sacrifice. Today nothing hits stronger than that today. And I was like, yes, that's kind of how we feel today.
Waking up Monday.
It's like the Monday after a huge event, because for us, it's not as emotional as the Cowboys game is.
Yeah.
What we do, the ministry, the life that we lead, like, is so emotionally taxing. And so it's not just that you and I spent the weekend with a lot of words coming out of our mouth, and then you spent Sunday also with a lot of words coming out of your mouth. We were pouring emotionally, spiritually, mentally, like, as well into the team, that I think you wake up feeling a little bit like, what day is it? Where am I?
Yeah, where am I? Does my brain work?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not only preaching, but then you're talking to everybody. I had a weird conversation.
You did?
Yeah, we can't talk about it yet.
Oh, man.
I had a weird one.
But
you ever have one of those, like, what is happening? Mid-conversation, Enrique walks by, and I wait. I'm like, Enrique,
get over here.
Get over here.
Out.
You got to hear what I'm hearing right now.
Well, it's that, and then the thing of it though is, as emotionally taxing as it was, I also feel the most satisfied today.
100%.
Because I feel like what you and I started, I don't know how many years ago did we shift from staff retreat or staff advance to this harbor weekend. What we started and intended years ago never felt like it came together more intentionally and more with what we were planning to do with it than it did this past weekend. No,
I think that's great. And I agree. So let's talk about it.
Yeah.
I think that, every organization has some budget or some focus on staff development.
Absolutely.
They, hire some guy and he comes in and has everybody do trust falls.
Right.
And they go do like a ropes course and
Yeah,
they
or like
listen
teachers.
to a motivational teaching.
Yeah, I remember Rachel had to go to so many different continuing education things to learn about her craft more, and that was part of the school budget as well for her job. And no matter who you are, what you are doing in life, the more development is necessary.
Yeah, and so churches are no different.
Absolutely.
And so I think for a lot of years, churches did staff retreats.
Yeah.
That's what they would call them.
Yeah.
Staff would go away, they'd get a cabin somewhere or a hotel or whatever, and it would be a time of like prayer and reflection and like focus. But there was also like a lot of work that would get
planning
done.
And calendar and like
budget and events and critique and brainstorm. And it was, at least in my experience, they were essentially a long staff meeting.
Right.
Like the kind of normal stuff that you would do in a staff meeting. You're there just pushing through more content and prepping for what's next. And for us, it felt like we wanted to do something a little bit different other than a staff retreat or a staff advance, which they're the same thing, just semantics. Retreat is pulling away, advance is looking forward.
Right.
And so we developed what we call Harbor Weekend.
That's right.
And so if you are a leader in any capacity, I think that this is worth hearing.
Right.
Because sometimes you shouldn't only be talking calendar, budget, leadership, flow patterns, logistics, assimilation. You should also be talking some other stuff.
Well, let's talk about that part first.
Yeah, the harbor.
Well, I mean, the idea that we had to shift our mindset from what we'd always seen done, what we'd always been a part of, and determine that's not working fully for us.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
The shift was get stuff done to get healthy.
Right.
So we put all of those other things on the shelf.
Yeah.
We still have those conversations.
100%.
We still talk budgets and agendas and schedules
have
and goals. We still talk all that stuff. But we felt like we needed time to really get healthy. And so the heart of it was just birthed with the idea of harbor.
Right.
We, for a number of years with our families, have went to Cabo San Lucas.
Cabo San Lucas.
And
that's right.
Cabo, like the city, the tourist portion of Cabo, is a harbor.
Yeah, it's a beach area, but there's this huge harbor where all the restaurants are, where a whole bunch of shops are, and so many boats. Jerry Jones even keeps a boat there. Like, speaking of, but like it is
we
a harbor.
do not keep a boat there.
We do not have a boat. We just go stay in a hotel and walk around the harbor. But there in the harbor, you see all different types of ships, all different sizes, all different functions, but they all come in for one specific purpose.
Right. You come into the harbor for a shield from what's happening out in the wild, what's happening in the ocean. They come in to a place of safety. For a couple of years, we lived in Houston, and it was a big harbor area where freight boats would come in and shipping container boats and fuel tankers would come in. And if there's a big storm out on the water, all of the boats would pack the harbor because there would be these natural reefs. In Cabo, there's a big mountain that comes around and it stops the waves. It breaks up what's happening out in reality.
Right.
And so for us, Harbor Weekend is a time that we stop doing the ministry and are able to be ministered to. Yeah,
like I've heard the phrase before that ships, they dock in the harbor, but they weren't made for the harbor.
Right.
We believe very strongly that we are made to push forward, to tug into more, to all that God has for us. And so we spend the vast majority of our year, of our time, of our work life out doing the job, the task that God's called us to do. And just like a boat, though, there are times where we have to come in, we have to dock, we have to restock, refuel, reload, all of these things. And so that's what we intentionally do.
Yeah, and so in a harbor, there's a couple different things that happen. Yeah, and we just listed a bunch of them. The boat comes in to the harbor to have repairs done.
Yeah.
If a prop is broken off the boat or there's a hole in the hull, there's a repair that needs to happen. And that's very hard to happen in the middle of a storm.
Absolutely.
So there's repair, there's refueling.
Right.
If you've been out working, transporting stuff, carrying a heavy load, moving things around, you run out of fuel.
Right.
We just did a message at More Church talking about the importance of having oil. Right. The parable of the 10 virgins, that you have to have oil, you have to have a supply that you can keep pulling from to keep shining. So we repair, we refuel, we restock. Right. All the people on the boat need to eat something. Right. You gotta restock. We get refocused. Yeah. there's a new assignment that's coming, right? And so you come to the harbor and you receive your redirection, your refocus. Like, here's where you're going next. We reload.
Yeah.
Here's the new thing that we're carrying. Here's the pressure, the focus. Because for us, for our staff, we've had seasons that we're carrying one thing.
Right.
But then we had to offload that, and now we're in a new season. We're carrying a new thing,
Absolutely.
so we have to reload.
Yeah, and so I think it's important to kind of talk through some of those because we take it very literal. It's not just an illustration that's cute.
Correct. It's not just our cute intro.
Right, but it's an actual piece. And so the first one you said is repair, and I think that's really good to actually talk about and be open about what it is that we do there, because in repairing, it's not just repairing maybe a department where they've lost some volunteers. It's not just repairing a piece of
it's not repairing the ministry, it's repairing the staff.
Correct.
Repairing their hearts.
Yeah, repairing even relational things that maybe haven't gone perfectly. You and I have said I'm sorry around those tables more times than we've said other things, because seasons are tough and they're hard. You know, we've gone through probably the hardest 2 years of ministry that I think most churches have encountered since COVID and all of those things in the last, 50 to 100 years anyways. And so for us, that harbor time is really, we got to repair our hearts, our minds, and our relationships together. Yeah. And that's something that can't be done in just a 2-hour window. That's why we go away for two and a half days and really take the time to sit and say, okay, we're going to dig in. And the only way repair happens is when everyone's hearts are open and vulnerable and humble. And so it's an important piece that I think it goes beyond a level of just the words, but it's really understanding this is intentional. There's going to be real conversation around this table.
Yeah, real conversation.
Yeah.
I forgot one.
Okay, go.
Reconnect.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a boat comes into harbor because the dudes or the ladies out on the boat haven't seen family.
Right.
And all they've seen are the work staff.
Yep.
And I feel like, I'm not a sailor, I've never been a sailor, but the dudes come in, they go into town, they grab a beer, they eat a burger, and now the guys they've been on the boat with, they're reconnecting relationally. Right. With the world, not just working.
Not just with the work that they do.
So they're reconnecting. So I don't know where we start. We could walk through those. No, I think we could talk through what we've done. Yeah. How we've done some of these.
Because I think what you mentioned, us going to Cabo, what we recognized is that the unique dynamic that you and I have in the way we work together. Yeah. And then with our spouses, Aaron and Rachel, before we worked together, we were really great friends. And the first few years of us working together, we learned, like, if we're not careful, we're only going to be working. We're not going to be in relationship anymore. We're not going to be, not that we're not in relationship, but our relationship is only going to be surrounded by work.
We only talk the job.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now we're real intentional that at least once, if not twice a year, we go away together, the four of us, to do all of these things. And so it was birthed out of an understanding that, like, if we want to do this for the long haul, then we're going to go.
We've got to get into a harbor.
We've got to go into it, and we've got to be intentional. And so it is a sacrifice. It does take a lot of work and energy, but it's so valuable. And so anybody who's a part of any organization might feel like, oh, that's an interesting concept, but what? You're going to go kumbaya? And I think a lot of people on our team have felt that way, maybe if they've never been a part of it before.
In the beginning.
Beginning. But then once they're apart, they're like, oh, I've never seen anything like this before. And so, I think we could just unpack what it looks like, how we've done it before, what we've learned through it.
Yeah. So, we started, when we first started trying to do harbor, we did it at the same place that we did
staff retreats.
Yeah. A hotel, conference room, whiteboards, projection devices, like marble table. Right. And it wasn't right.
It was very cold.
It was cold.
It was hard to be vulnerable and sit around a cold atmosphere all at the same time.
And so when we were a little smaller staff, we one year rented a beach house in Galveston. Yeah. It was one of those like beach houses that sleeps 12. We take all the spouses.
Oh yeah.
So if you get a paycheck from the church, stipend, janitorial, anybody, you're a part. Right. This is not just for us. Yeah. Executive, pastoral, anything. Everybody who's there. and their staff or fiancés.
Right.
Fiancé is the like barrier of like, oh, this is a legit relationship.
their wedding
You ain't bringing your boyfriend.
No, but like if your wedding's is within the next 6 months, you're coming.
And so all the spouses are there.
Yeah.
And so we rented a beach house. And man, you know what was great about it is it breaks up everything because everybody's sleeping under one roof.
Right.
And we all like go to the grocery store together and load carts with food.
Yeah.
And we cook breakfast together.
Yeah.
And cook lunch together.
Yeah.
And then we will go to somewhere for dinner. And it saves money.
Right.
And it's hilarious.
It's super fun because everybody makes their eggs different. Like everybody does the pancakes different.
Yeah.
And so you learn so much about each other just in like that dynamic of living. You know, it's the same as when you first get married and you're like, what?
Yeah.
You do it like that? But this is how we got to know each other well.
You get to this, and again, this is the goal.
Yeah.
We're reconnecting. We get to know each other well. So now in the kitchen, people that normally don't cross paths are crossing paths making breakfast because they're similar personalities.
Yeah.
There's the people that sleep in and are slow, but then there's the people that wake up and are making cinnamon rolls and pancakes. And so remember when A-Rod, love A-Rod, he was a part of our staff team.
Yeah.
And him and Aaron would be in the kitchen
for sure
cooking up breakfast.
Making
and Rachel,
the bacon.
People that might not normally be working together. And so they're just making this big absurd breakfast.
Yes.
But even the walk around the grocery store is a win.
Oh, yeah.
Because you see what cereal people like, and it's getting our staff outside of the normal context.
Right.
And we would buy so much breakfast food, there's no way we're going to be able to eat it all, but it was still cheaper
100%.
than taking everybody to breakfast.
100%. Breakfast food is the best.
So we did the beach house.
Yeah.
And dude, we were crammed up in there. We rented
There was like a hurricane, remember? We got trapped in there. So that was actually... What's fun about it is once you have fully embraced it, then it was like, we had a blast. Are we going to die here or are we going to be in this together?
You're all in like pajamas.
Yeah.
So the boardroom.
Correct. Is a very different vibe.
You're in a hotel.
Right.
You have to dress a certain way. But we're like Crocs and socks.
Yeah.
You know, like in our meeting, so everybody's a little bit more comfortable in the conversation.
Absolutely. It sets the tone for a more relaxed environment, which then can make you relax, let down the guard, let down the perfect performance that like some employees have, let down their regular way that they are perceived, and it allows for so much.
Yeah, we did one where we rented the biggest Airbnb we could find.
Yeah.
And there was one in a couple cities over that was, I don't want to call it a mansion because it makes it sound like we spent an absorbent amount of money.
No.
We didn't.
I would call it a mansion if I lived in it.
Yeah.
It was huge.
It was able to sleep like 30 people.
Yeah.
But it was because they had bunk beds. They'd turned the garage into bunk bed area.
Yeah, they had like an outside house, like a pool house or something.
And so we rented that, and it was only like $800 a night.
Yeah, it was not crazy.
Which you might sound like a lot of money, but if you're having to buy 15 hotel rooms, that's way cheaper.
Yeah.
And so the same, breakfast, and they had the, what's the tetherball?
Oh, yeah.
And like one of our greatest memories, like we're out as a staff playing tetherball, and Enrique and Wyatt are playing, and Enrique swings, but he swings too hard and he hits Wyatt in the mouth.
In the face.
Wyatt gets a bloody lip.
Actual face, yeah.
We had a bunch of people jump into a creek. Like it was out because you're sleeping in the same kind of
quarters. Context, yeah.
It makes the whole thing connection.
Absolutely.
Not just meeting, go to your room.
Right. No, I think that's the best part of it. And as our team has gotten bigger, it's gotten harder to find a place that will hold us all. But the relaxation, the ease, and then the speed. Like when you're not having to hurry up, get in a car, drive a place, go somewhere, but you're just staying in the same location. It allows you to go at a slower pace.
Yeah.
And for us and our team, man, we're running at the speed of ministry, running at the speed of more all the time. And this allows a little bit slower, a little bit step back. We don't start at 8 a.m. We start at 9 or we give it a little more. And And it just makes for a fun environment. This last one, like we ended up on a grassy area where people are doing cartwheels and flips. Like
so
Phil
stupid.
can do a full like front flip like a gymnast. I'm like, wait, what?
And all the guys started calling out each other to see who could race.
Yes.
And they're running, and Pastor Tim was, I think he beat Amanda.
He might have
Tim
beat
wanted to race Amanda, and Amanda was
can't
like, no. But Tim, I think he smoked
I
it.
think he did. But like it's absurd, but it's the best because it allows you to see sides of people that you never see in a 9 to 5, Monday through whatever environment. Yeah.
Now, it sounds like we're just talking about taking our staff on a camp. But it's there's a lot of intentional time.
Well, yeah, but you and I went to camp.
No,
and the
I mean
camps that
like day fun camp.
Oh yeah.
Like
But I
it
was gonna
sounds
say,
like all we've said so far seems like a waste of time and a waste of money.
But maybe we never even realized that before. Maybe that's part of where it came from in our hearts is that you and I both went to camps that drastically changed our life, where
Massive.
God was able to speak to us
Yeah.
and really move. And so like, yeah, it is a little bit, but there's so much intentional time. And probably the reason why they act so goofy out in the space is because of what we do in the meeting time that we're actually together is so much more intense that you just got to be a little goofy afterwards. So let's talk about that part.
Well, you were saying this time we because of the size of our team, how we've grown, we went back to the hotel, and so now we're at a hotel.
Yeah.
But we found one that has a massive. I don't even want to call it conference room.
Right.
Meeting space.
Meeting space.
So you're not just around a table.
Yeah.
You can do stuff. And so we were able to play games and throw stuff and
As long as the like hotel director didn't come in, it was fine.
my wife at one point started throwing full bananas.
Yeah. Like
Rachel's-
mashed full bananas.
Rachel's
They were mashed
crazy
up.
person.
But yeah, it was fine. Okay. Yes.
But I was going to say, but if you hear that and think, man, I don't have the budget. Something we did one year in the beginning is I called a friend of mine who's a pastor.
Yeah.
And I asked if I could use his church to have a Harbor weekend meeting.
Yeah.
Because it was not in the budget to rent anything.
No, right.
We couldn't. Now, the beach house was really cheap.
Well, we got it at like a.
I bought it I wanted it at an auction
of a place that we support, like a local charity that we support, and so it was like, oh, this is part of our budget anyway to do. Yeah.
But I'm saying, if you think I don't have the budget to do that,
Right.
yeah, you do. Call a friend who's a pastor and say, hey, can I use your auditorium? Can I use your lobby to have some of these meetings with my staff?
We've even in past seasons not been able to do the full harbor, but have even done all days in our own building, but we drastically changed the space. Remember? We were like, oh, they're going to make it where it's normally set like this. We're going to set it backwards and sideways and over and this like that.
Yeah.
Because it's just about shaking up the norm and making a space that's different than where you've been before. And so, and then it's figuring it out. We've done it before and gone, well, that didn't really work. Let's change it this way next time. Oh, I didn't like this piece. And like, what I love is that our team, they start this time, the ones who had never been before start asking questions to the ones who have been before. And they kept saying, is it going to be like this? Are they going to do that? Are they going to do these things? And everyone else in response to them was like, we actually have no idea because we never actually know what's going to be. It's always different until it happens, but I can promise you it'll be good.
Yeah, Whitney and I always take some time to pray and to figure out where the team is.
Yeah.
And say, okay, what do we need? Not what do we need to do, what do we need?
And not what do we need from them, but what do
they need from
us? Right.
And
what do they need
God.
from God? Right.
And so we take that pretty seriously to make sure that we're doing the right things in the right moments.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what we're doing in those blocks.
Well, something that we kind of even realized this time that we maybe never identified before is that we take a little bit of intentional time in 3 areas. In team health, in emotional health, which is the vast majority.
Yeah.
And then in our spiritual health.
Yeah.
And so we identified it this time like, hey, we're going to block it up into these 3 areas. Did we stay in that perfect thing? No, not necessarily. But it helps identify, okay, this area, we're focusing together collectively as a team.
Yeah.
That together we're repairing some stuff as a team. That we're working to talk through some dynamics as a team. Then we go to our emotional health, which I love, is a reflection of not necessarily what I said, not what we need out of them, but what do they need to know about themselves?
Yeah.
What does God need to speak to them where is the next step that they need to take in their own healing and emotional support. And so, yeah, it's just such a great way of helping everyone open up, chill out, and go, okay, this is where we're focused. Now let's see what God's going to do.
Yeah. And so you want to just talk through those three?
Yeah.
So which one first?
Team health's easiest, right?
Yeah.
To start?
Yeah.
I think so.
What did we do this time?
We talked through, I'm like, oh, what did we do? No, in our team health, we talked through just some regular dynamics of the fact that we're in a really weird season right now.
Oh, yes.
And so we talked about bandwidth, remember?
Yeah. So at each of those three things, something I say a bunch is that I just use my life as a canvas to paint upon for others' growth.
Right.
That means I have to be transparent.
Absolutely.
With my life. And so we talk about where we currently are as a church,
right,
and the struggles that we're facing.
Right.
And so like right now, what we talk about is how everything feels unsteady. Mm-hmm. Everything feels shaken. We're in a rental facility. I've been having a hard last year, and so that's shaken some things. We've had staff transitions.
Yeah.
We've had so many people leave the church. Dude, we've had so many people leave our church that we literally could start 3 other churches out of it.
Right.
And I think that might have happened.
And maybe it did happen. I don't know.
People leaving all over the place.
Yeah.
And that hurts.
Yeah.
And it shakes your teams.
Right.
Because old faithfuls aren't there anymore.
Right.
And so you got these new people that have been coming in that you're trying to even get to know what their names are and who their kids are and their wife and all.
Well,
and so we talk about the awkward first.
Yeah, exactly. It can make them feel like one thing we talked about was like they're out of bandwidth because they've lost some people that normally would have helped them, or they stepped into. We've had people on the team that literally had no training, no understanding of the area they stepped into, but they were like, it's a ball that needs to be caught. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And so we talked through that, and then I think for some of them, until we were able to just say it and talk it out loud, you can start to feel like some of that is your fault.
Yes.
That you didn't do a good enough job, that you didn't carry it correctly, but people are people. And so like we were able to sit and talk not just through the struggle, but then how we're going to help each other in that struggle, how we're going to help steady ourselves into the next season, I'm going to help you stay steady and stable. You're going to help me stay steady and stable, and all around the table, which opens up. We all have work problems. We all have situations on our teams that makes us be vulnerable without having to be deeply vulnerable first.
Yeah. And so we go around the room. Something we do at all 3 of these things is we go around the table and we let everybody talk about their struggle.
Yeah. What
they're dealing with.
Right.
And it takes a long time.
Yeah.
Like this is a long time for everybody in the room.
30 people at this last
Yeah,
harbor.
with 30 people.
That's a long time. Even if at one point you leaned over to me and you said, if they talk for 2 minutes, that means we're listening for an hour.
Just this one question.
Just this one thing.
And some of the things that we're going to get into, people are talking for 10, 12, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And so we have them go around and talk about the areas of ministry that they're struggling, beat up, tired in.
Yeah.
And what it does is it creates empathy all around the table.
Absolutely.
So instead of being frustrated that the person didn't get the graphic to you in time,
right, or
why the worship team didn't have a guitar player, or why they're this or this, you understand, no, I have felt that before.
Right.
And so I'm going to have some empathy. So that's team health.
Absolutely. And so once we've talked through team health, what inevitably happens, and in fact, this time we had to make some new ground rules because in the past, our team is full of encouragers. So they would start encouraging each other in it. And so we told them this time they had to have a golden button that they could only interject in one person. But if after that, they had to go and tell them later or send them a text later or whatever that was. But what inevitably happens is someone else has great input to give that helps not only solve the problem, but it builds trust in the room.
Yeah.
What you're saying with empathy is not just empathy felt, it's empathy spoken. Yeah. And so when the empathy is spoken, that builds trust around the table, especially when you have people that are new on the team. Like I said, I think that we had 6 people there that had never been there before.
Yeah.
And so them being able to experience it and see it and to understand, this is what's about to happen. They're not about to make me feel bad. They're about to help encourage and build me up is a huge piece that gets us ready for the next step, which is the emotional health.
The emotional health. And that's the biggest one. I mean, at More Church, we have values that we live by and staff values. And one of those, the number one value is above all else, guard your heart.
Right.
And I know it's a scripture, but it's a value that we hold to, because everything we do in ministry, it flows out of our emotional health.
Absolutely.
And so we go deep.
Yeah.
And I say shockingly transparent stuff of what I've dealt with or I'm dealing with. And we allow room to cry.
Yeah.
We allow room to really talk about what has hurt us and where we're going, not just with ministry, but sometimes in life. People will talk about what's going on with family, with their children, with their parents. They'll talk about the heaviness that they're feeling. And so this time we talked about our origin.
Yeah.
We talked, and there's a whole other teaching that I don't think we have to get into.
No, not today yet.
But we talked about like our origin story and like the homes that we grew up in.
And where we come from massively affects how we handle today and who we are today. Yeah.
And so I started and I told my origin and where I came from and how that turned into kind of my personality and how I navigate issues.
Yeah.
And I cried in it.
Yeah.
And we went around the table, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
To hear stories. I wish I could share them, but to hear trauma that people have walked through, to hear how crappy people's parents have been,
right,
and how people have dealt with neglect and abuse, and it creates a empathy, a understanding of, man, if this person's a little rough around the edges, I see why.
Well,
I get it.
We found that culturally and like society, like we're taught, we're built to cover it up, make it look good.
Yeah.
Smile, keep smiling, put a veneer, put a false cover on what we're walking through in life, and to walk out and say, how's your day? Great, doing great, always fine, all the things. And it's what we found though is that the most painful things are really the most universal things. The most personal things are really the most universal things. And what the enemy is really good at is making us feel isolated and alone, and feel like we're the only ones not okay. And we say it all the time that it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
And when we'll admit that, then we don't have to stay there. But so many people spend their life not okay, but covering it with, I'm fine, I'm great, everything's good. And so it is, if you've never been a part of a culture like that, it's very, jarring, shocking. Like, whoa, what is even happening here? But also the ground rules of it are very simple, that we're going to be vulnerable and transparent, and nothing you say is going to be used against you at any point in your life. Like, you can be as open about it, and I'm not going to later be like, well, see, that's why you're acting that way. But it's the opposite. It's the understanding of, okay, let's remember where we've come from and let's walk through it together. And man, it creates such a safe place. Yeah. Such a safe environment for everyone to say, hey, I've been there too. And we're going to heal together. We're going to walk forward together. Yeah. Yeah.
And so like we asked that question and we talked through those things. And then this time we sent everybody out for something that we do. Pastor Winnie does a great job at is we get journals for everybody. Yeah. And she buys these Shinola journals and has them like inscribed with their name on the front of it. Yeah. And so everybody gets a journal and a nice pen. And we send them out for an hour to go and pray and like wrestle through some of that, some abiding time. Right. Assigned abiding time. Because we all should have a prayer life and a devotional life. Right. And, but how often do we take just an hour to think about one idea and really let God speak to us? Yeah. And then people come back and talk about what God said. You know, another one we did a couple harbors ago, we talked about the idea of who God says you are. Right. Who does God say you are? And I talked about my struggle with understanding who God says I am. Yeah. Because I identified who they say I am and who I say I am and who the organization says I am. Right. But who does, like, at the end of the day, forget my title, forget the response, who does God say that I am? Yeah, yeah. And that was something God took, Harbor is always a journey of where we're walking through personally. Absolutely. And so we said, we want you to take an hour. Maybe we gave him an hour and a half. Yeah, probably. We were in downtown, we're in Fort Worth, and we go somewhere, take an hour and a half and hear from God. Who does God say that you are? Yeah. Because that's emotional health. For sure. Hearing from him about you is healing. And I'm telling you, that was a breakthrough. Like, I still remember what Enrique said.
Yeah, right.
And our team does.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
We've had these moments that man are incredible.
No, and I think that what you're saying is so good is it's a gift that we don't all receive very often. There's not very often in my life where somebody says, hey, I just need you to take some time for you for an hour and a half. Don't do any work. Don't answer any phone call. Don't worry. They got it. They got it. We got it. You just go. And you just allow yourself. And we all can try to find time in our day, to have time with God and all of these pieces. But there's always the nagging of what's coming next or who needs us now or a phone call that comes in or whatever. And the gift of that time I've had them all in different moments be like, thank you so much for the time. And so it's not only the space, it's not only the vulnerability, but it's also the time to say, hey, this is carved out specifically for you. Now go in here. And so, they come back and then they share. And again, we're real vulnerable with each other and we're willing to share. And it's funny. We talked about it before this last one, because what normally will happen is one person will go and they'll just talk for a minute or two. And then the next person will talk a little longer and a little longer and it's like by the end they feel vulnerable, but in the beginning they didn't. They didn't feel as open or whatever. But what was amazing this time is that every time someone spoke, they were already jumped in, ready to go and fully open.
Well, we've created the culture now, because it used to be awkward. It used to be people were still putting on that veneer.
Facade,
which you preached a message on the fake veneer, which we need to link. We need to link it. It was so good. It was such a great message that she did.
Well, because it's the way we're taught. I can remember as a kid being told, okay, smile, like it's time to don't tell anybody we're fighting about that. Don't tell anybody this is happening. And it was not that my parents were so horrible. It was just the nature of society in the way that we live. And we're taught to say that everything is okay. And then as leaders, we feel like we're supposed to be okay. We're supposed to help others. If we're not okay, how can we help them? And that's exactly the point, is that we strive for emotional eliteness. But the only way to get to an emotional elite place is to be vulnerable about where we are at and to be vulnerable about where we need healing. And so it's not that, the other part of it is, it's not that I don't think we'll ever arrive at a place where we won't do emotional health in our harbor.
No.
Because we're always going to need healing at some level in our emotions, no matter how elite we become. And so what you said is great, that God's very clear and kind to speak to us where we're at and where the team is at ahead of time. And it's always a journey that is more surprising than we expected it to be, but it's so sweet in understanding, like, hey, we're in this together and we're growing together. And man, I walked away feeling so grateful for their willingness to be that vulnerable.
And connected. Grateful, connected. We did a year where we asked, what are you afraid of?
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Right now, what are you afraid of?
I forgot of that one.
And it was when we did it when we were at that big mansion house, and it had a big backyard, and we let everybody go for an hour and a half, long time, 2 hours. Go and really write down what you're afraid of. Because do you know the reason that we don't call volunteers? Because we're afraid.
We're afraid we'll get rejected. We're afraid we'll offend
I'm saying
somebody.
what we could do is we could have a retreat where we build a list of how many volunteers you need to recruit, and this is your goal, and everybody's going to do it. Ready, 1, 2, 3, yay, we're going to reach more people. But if you're afraid of rejection, or you're afraid of what people are going to think of you, you're never going to make the phone call. And so it's let's deal with the deeper issue than just the fluffy issue of the goal. We did a year where we felt like our people needed to be encouraged. And so we got these bags and we wrote everybody's name on a bag. And then we said, over these 2.5 days, we want you to write a card of encouragement to every person or to half the people.
No, I think everyone did for everyone, right?
And so it was just, at least you had to write a word.
It didn't have to be deep and long and but it could be. But it had to be at least a word of encouragement.
And they hated the name that I gave it. I gave it the name Face Bag because it was like Facebook, but we put them in bags. So we called it Face Bag.
It's the timeline of encouragement,
And Easton's life was shifted.
100%. My kids both, I was going to say, they both still have cards.
Me too.
You have them in your room, right? On your mirror in your room. And,
Yeah.
And McKinley has them in the bathroom, the kids' bathroom.
How many years later?
Three? Is it 2 or 3? 3? 2 or 3?
And you know what? That after we did that Harbor weekend is when my truck got broken into.
Oh, really?
And they stole all my cards. They stole my suitcase, my laptop, my backpack. But you know what I was most upset about?
Your cards.
Is the devil literally stole my encouragement.
That'll preach.
No, but I'm saying that's how vital it was. But I remember them, and a bunch of our team rewrote what they wrote and gave it to me, because in that season we had to be encouraged.
Yeah.
And so like, we're giving you guys ideas so you can steal them and use them.
Yeah.
But there's so many more things, and it's all dependent on. Don't just grab an idea and do it.
No.
You've got to really identify where the team is, where the culture is, and then speak specifically to that.
Well, and you just said, I mean, it's where God's brought us through. You can't really get your team to a place of emotional health if you're unwilling to go there first.
Oh, right. I mean, the amount of counseling that we have each done, and in our marriages we've done, is what even makes this
possible.
Doable.
Possible, yeah.
Or else me and Rachel would just be a crying mess.
Or we'd get up there and give these phony, vulnerable commentaries that they could see right through, because people can see right through when you're being, let me come up with an analogy of something to say, or when you're actually sharing.
Here are the 8 points of emotional health.
Right. It's absurd. And so, like, we literally, it's not perfectly planned. You and I used to sit and write out the outline of the day, of the weekend or whatever, and then we would at least spend 30 minutes per section coming up with what we were going to talk about and how we were going to talk about it.
Oh, we spent so long whiteboarding. So
much. And then this time, we talked about it like 3 months ago. We had an all day where we do a bunch of stuff at our all days, offsite all days. And then, I don't know, a couple weeks beforehand, revisited that list.
And pulled out the major thoughts.
The major ideas. And then, I mean, not to brag on us. I'm saying we've let go of the rigidness and allowed the Holy Spirit to work through us. Well, that we did a teaching this time where we literally had, this is the idea. You bring your props, I'll bring mine. Didn't talk about what we were going to say or who's going to use what for what prop. Presented it to the team, and afterwards they're like, that has to be a sermon series. People need to hear this. Oh my word.
Gold.
Such gold. Not that we're brilliant, but that we allowed the Holy Spirit to flow, and we didn't stay so rigid to it, that then God was able to speak through us exactly what was needed, not just for us, not just for the team, but probably for our whole congregation. And it was so good.
So that one specifically was spiritual health stuff. And out of it, what we'll do at a Harbor weekend is, if we feel like there's a need for a teaching. Yeah. Right? Me giving a 40-minute teaching. Right. Or Whitney giving a 40-minute teaching. That's always followed up by a conversation.
Always, yeah.
It's not like, end of the thing, thank you, bless us Jesus, let's go get lunch. No. We build the time that if I'm talking for 40 minutes, we're conversating about it for 2 hours.
2 hours, right.
That's where growth happens.
100%.
Because people are able to process out loud, and they're able to hear what somebody else says. And how many times in that conversation is what Chris Magden said exactly what Tim needed to hear? Absolutely. And so they're cross-pollinating wisdom to each other, and they're taking ideas. Amarisa said something farther than I could. Brady gave a scripture about what we were teaching that's going to be the key. I put it on my social media. I didn't think of that. Yeah. And it's in that conversation that we're able to really grow.
Well, that's the connection and the unity piece of it. I think so many people, all of the people, part of the main reason why anyone has a staff retreat or a staff development ever in the history of the world, whether it is for a Fortune 500 company or a church or whatever in between, they want unity on their team.
Yes.
They want to build connectivity so that they can flow together in whatever direction that they're supposed to go. They can perform to the best of their ability as a team in an organization. And what what you're talking about, the cross-pollination of wisdom, builds such deep-rooted unity that even if someone transitions or even if someone moves on or whatever, it doesn't shake up the whole thing. It just brings the group tighter together to go, okay, now that this role is gone or now that these responsibilities are missing, how can we come together and keep moving it forward? And I think that's where you and I have seen so much team growth over the years of doing these harbors, because there's always going to be transition, like good, bad, or ugly. Like people are always going to be moving on, but as a team, we want to stay unified. And so the way we're doing that is by being able to trust each other and to build off of what the other is saying. And it's just been beautiful and phenomenal to see. But what you're saying is so true, that they'll speak such wisdom, but then what the processing out loud allows it to really sit. How many times have you gone to a conference and, man, in the moment, the emotions you feel, it's changing your life. Oh, God, I'm never going to be the same. And then a week later, you're like, what was the verse? What did they say?
I hope I wrote it down.
And you're like, man, can I go find that sermon or listen to it again? Or can I hear that thing? Because in the moment you were moved, but there was not the movement forward in your life because you didn't have time to process it and carry it together. And so, man, it has been invaluable. And so like to you as a leader, I know in the beginning, you're like, I want this time to be valuable. I want it to really make an impact and help affect the rest of our year. But what you found is this like slow down to speed up moment makes a huge difference.
You only know how to do what you're doing by what you've seen. And what I'd seen was a black binder with an agenda and lessons and calendars, and so I thought that that's what needed to happen, but over time realized, because I mean for us anyways, we wear multiple hats. So I wear boss hat. I'm a boss. You work here. I'm pastor hat. I have a spiritual voice. But I'm also a friend. And a fun. I want to just live life. But then I'm also kind of a dad. Now to some of our team, maybe to all of the team. And so when you wear all those hats, you have to have a place that you're willing to put all those on. And so I think at Harbor, we work really hard to take off the boss hat and to keep on the pastor, friend, and maybe most of all, mom and dad hat.
For sure.
The mentor, we want to develop you, whether, like we've got one of our guys on our team who's prepping to move. And I'm real mad about it. He's prepping to move. I want to talk about it. But I'm not going to, because I'm off the throne.
That's right.
But you know what? I'm so glad that he was there. He's poured into. He's growing. And as a dad, it's making him a better man being in the room. And so I'm glad that for this next 6 months or however long that he's still here, I'm glad that he's here.
Well, you just said something that I think is so important that you and I had to establish a long time ago, is that do we actually care about these people beyond just what they bring to the table in the organization? Do we actually love them and believe in them, and whether they're pouring into this house or another house or another vocation, do we believe in them and love them, and are they people worthy of investing in? 100%. And they're like, yes. And so what we had to do was lay down our desire for the organization to flourish and to pick up the desire to see them flourish as people. And God's so good to do what he does that inevitably builds the organization. But we don't spend any time. When we first started Harbors, we would do half and half. We would do like schedules, calendars, budgets, these things. And then we would in fact, we would only invite the staff to the first day or whatever. And it would be a work day. And then we would invite the spouses to come, and then we would do the like harbor part of it. But we found that they were so counterintuitive to each other. And those,
because everybody walls up when you start talking
those
goals.
Hat shiftings, they were too hard. It was too intense. And so, and the truth is, we have such a efficient team that it's hard in regular moments to just pastor, to just love and lead, and to just be spiritual moms and dads. And so now we don't do that there. We do it in just a regular staff meeting, which then allows so much space.
There's a lot of different things that we've done. We've sent out sermons that we want everybody to listen to this message before Harbor. We're going to discuss it. listen to this podcast ahead of time, and we're going to have a session to discuss it. Read this book, and we're going to take this book, and we're going to walk through it.
Right.
We've done a lot of things. But do you know what we didn't do at all this time?
What?
Not once.
I don't know.
Talk about our values.
You're right. And I actually thought about it at one point, but go ahead. Say what you're about to say.
So we have values. I just said that we live and die by these values. And we used to spend a major portion of time at Harbor talking through our values. We would talk about it. The team would discuss it. This time we didn't talk about it literally one time. But do you know why? They already got them.
Well, I was going to say, we didn't talk about them except as a reference point. So many people. No, you're 100% right. They're so ingrained in them now.
They're so deep that I didn't even realize it until just now. We didn't even make it a teaching point because we're like, oh, they already got John 3:16.
Right.
They already got
know
it.
That. No, there was actually a moment where one of our team that I remember thinking, at one point I just remember thinking, we don't even have anything about our values in here. This specific person, I don't know if they even know them well enough. Should we have done that? Oh gosh, whatever. And then in a sharing moment, they literally said, well, because we believe that.
Yeah.
And said a value and then said what God was speaking after that. And I was like, oh, they already got it. They know it.
They got the values.
They do it.
Which is a good point. We have had churches before have us come in to do their staff retreats.
Their harbor weekends.
And we just do a harbor.
That's all we do, yeah.
And one of those teams, we got there and had a whole plan and found out they had no staff values.
Yeah. And they were struggling because they kind of didn't know who they were and how they did what they did.
Yeah. And so we came in and helped that whole church develop their church and staff values.
Yeah.
And that's a whole 2-day exercise.
Oh, for sure.
That's a beating.
Yeah.
But it's the most valuable thing that you could do.
Well, because what it isn't is stealing other people's values.
No, you could get on and take ours, but if it's not who you are, it's a bunch of junk.
Right. And like for us, we started them, 5 years ago? But they've evolved and shifted even over the years. Or like a few have fallen off and a few have been reworded.
Yeah.
Because it only can be what is who you are and how you do what you do. And so that's a fun exercise. That takes being vulnerable and transparent.
Yeah.
Because you have to be willing to admit your shortcomings.
No, we're not that.
Nope. We're not those people.
That's not who we are. That's not how we're going to do it.
We have one about being party starters. You cannot have a value that you're party starters
unless the pastor's wife is throwing bananas in a conference room.
If she's not willing to throw bananas.
I'm just saying.
She and I competed in the ping pong tic-tac-toe peanut butter challenge.
Oh yeah.
It was absurd.
We play funny games in Harbor too.
But like, if you are not willing to do things like that, if you're not willing to have a team that does cartwheels outside and flips and all the things, then you're probably not party starters, And so like, you gotta
don't make it a value.
You're right.
Maybe you're more liturgical.
Right.
Maybe
and that's fine.
That's fine.
That's who you are.
That's your vibe. Add a value that we are reverent. I don't know.
We are very reverent about the Lord.
So we've had people reach out and say, hey, man, we feel like our church or our organization needs
this
specific help.
Yeah.
How do they contact us? What do we do?
You can email us at, is it Tug of More what is it? Say it.
Tug of More at
More Church. Tug of More at more.church.
Yeah.
There, I said it right. Tug of More at more.church or info at more.church or message on our Instagram or our Facebook and we'll get it that way too.
And
or personally, you and I.
Yeah, and so we've done before where church will bring us in and we'll do a two-day extensive with them. And
I get really excited
we've came in and helped just executive teams.
Yeah, yep.
It's funny. A church brought Aaron and Rachel and Whitney and I in to do some marriage stuff for their church.
Yeah.
But then while we were there, it also turned into us doing some executive stuff with their executive team because we love to help churches get healthy.
Right.
And identify their areas of unhealth.
No, it's really fun.
Create some values.
I literally texted you the other day. I can't remember even now what it was about. But I just said, I remember typing to you, 7 years ago, us would not believe that this is actually what it is now.
No.
Can you believe that we get to do this?
No.
Like the team that God has allowed us and the health and the freedom and the emotional just stability, has only been because of this like journey exercise of where we are now in these harbor weekends that have so become a part of who we are that now the four of us have harbor weekends. My family doesn't even realize it, but that's what we have on vacation is actual harbor weekends. Like, that's what we're doing as people. And so I get really excited when we talk about it for others because I'm like, if only they could get what God has given us in this gift. And like, good job that we've like gone on this long, crazy journey and allowed ourselves to get out of our comfort. The first time we did it was very uncomfortable. It was very different.
Well, it was uncomfortable because I thought it had to be another way.
Right.
And once I could throw off the blinders of how I think it's supposed to be compared to how it was.
Right.
Then God started doing what he wanted to do.
Right. We allowed him to lead it and do it. And in fact, this time on our like agenda, we ended up doing a whole session that wasn't even there because we felt like this is what's right. And go ahead. What?
No, and we wrote an impromptu lesson with our team about bandwidth.
It was so good.
We have to do. We have to do another episode.
We have to do that here. Yeah. So good. Okay.
Guys.
Love y'all.
Love y'all. If you have any questions, hit us up. We would love to come to your business or to your church and help you tug into more.
That's true.
Love y'all.
Love y'all.
See ya.